Welcome back to Spitballin Cards. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the offseason and what's going to happen to specific players' cards, depending on if they change teams or not, our dumbest sports card trades, and more. So let's just jump right into this. We have Tyler, aka Teapot. We have Chris, baseball card collector, and Phil Filmington. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Scott. I go by Scotty B Cards on Instagram and YouTube sometimes. And overall, guys, it's great to be here with you. We obviously are missing Jeff and producer Lance. Jeff and producer Lance, thanks for being awesome. But let's jump into the very first topic. What we're going to talk about is the off season. And the off season is always the best. It's one of the best times in baseball. I know that sounds silly because the season's great, but the hot stove, if it's actually hot, I remember a few years ago, it was horrible. No one wanted to sign with Machado and Harper. But this year, I have a feeling there's going to be some big signings, some big movements. We have Ohtani going somewhere new, most likely. He could still go to the Angels, technically. We have Trout potentially leaving the Angels. And we have I don't know the guy's name, the international superstar that's coming over, the pitcher that people want to sign, and more. So a lot to talk about. And then I do want to get the sports card moves in a moment. But let's start with that. So very first thing, let's think, what are you looking forward to the most? Like, what is a perfect situation for cards with a specific player? Mine would be Trout leaving the Angels. I'll talk about that later. If that's yours, you can talk about it too. Let's hear your thoughts, Chris.
Okay. So I thought kind of sneaky, the biggest news for baseball and for cards that came out last week was that the Padres had to take out a loan to keep their baseball operations going. I think that sent like sort of low-level warning bells that they're not going to be able to keep this team together. So I would say the chances of Soto getting traded have jumped up significantly. And if they do decide to trade Soto, the most likely landing spot is not where I would want him to go. I'm not a Yankee fan. Sorry out there, any Yankee fans listening. I grew up in New Jersey. I spent a lot of time in New York. Neither here nor there. It seems like if they're going to trade him, that's probably where he's going to go. They've got a bunch of young talent. They have bottomless pockets. If you hold Soto cards and they're down right now, if he gets traded to the Yankees, they are going to probably go up in value a little bit. I'm assuming there would be a massive run on Soto cards.
There will be a massive run, and I think that run will be deserved. Not saying that the prices will hold, but Juan Soto, he's just struggled in San Diego, the ballpark. I talk about it way too much at this point, but he has terrible splits at home. His road numbers have been good the last few years. He's always played good in Yankee Stadium, and he's always played good on that side of the country. I think there's a chance we see some monster Soto seasons, whether he goes to the Yankees or a different New York team with the Mets. He loves the Mets. He's posted about the Mets on his story, like all these different things. If he went to the Mets, I think he'd have amazing numbers as well because he hits really well in Citi Field. So, Phil, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, that Soto storyline, and maybe I thought it was because I was in some sort of a Juan Soto echo chamber. So I kept on getting all these updates like linked to the Yankees, and I'm just like, come on, it can't be true. But yeah, I mean, you've got like the former hitting coach saying like they need a solid left-handed bat, one like Juan Soto. And like, I tried to, the short right porch, he's the type of guy when his power's going right, he doesn't need a short right porch. And I hope that doesn't screw up his ground ball tendencies, pull tendencies. When he's at his best, he's hitting curveballs to the opposite way. So like, I don't want that to be in his head because he's had a lot of context issues, whether it be lack of a hitting coach, bad situation in San Diego, whether it be the lineup protection in Washington, and it could be just a lot of pressure and the short right porch in Yankee Stadium. But I do agree there would be immediate upside to his prices. And if this is a trade that does entail Jason Dominguez being included, you're almost anointing Soto as like the Yankees guy for the next 10 years, assuming, Judge eventually fades away. He's a little bit older, right? But, are the Yankees going to be willing to, I guess it would give them a year trial period, right? So are they willing to spend that much money on another hitter, seeing how they messed up on Giancarlo Stanton, seeing how they messed up with some of these large pitcher contracts, right? And does it also help their lineup in that right now it's really top heavy? If you add another star to it, is it not top heavy anymore? I think it is kind of a little top heavy. But man, I mean, Soto's a storyline I'm watching with Ohtani. I have a feeling it's going to be either the Giants or the Dodgers or the Mets. And I think the fact that he is not going to be a pitcher in the immediate future as he's recovering from Tommy John, I think that allows more teams to afford him. But I also think that makes him being maybe less of a natural fit for the Dodgers that do need a pitcher. Dustin May's not going to pitch next year, right? Julio Urias, who knows? Trevor Bauer, if he comes back, probably to a different team, right? Walker Buehler might come back, but I mean, he'll be on an innings count. Clayton Kershaw, who knows? And that's another guy we can talk about. But with Ohtani, it'll be interesting. And I mean, some of these teams next year, you probably don't get too crazy about like trying to try him out in like left field or anything. But I mean, he's a guy that certain teams, he might be a decent fit for left field if he's to have more of that value as a hitter and be more of like a reliever versus a starter in the long term. I'm more talking about like 2025 and beyond. That could get interesting. With the Giants, they've got two guys in the corners, so they don't have a good fit there. But with the Dodgers, there could be space for him, Chris Taylor and Mookie in the outfield. And that's really it right now, I think. And then with the Mets, you've got, I think, Marte and Jeff McNeil. They can maybe make room for him. But that's also something I'm looking at.
One thought about the Dodgers. Mookie Betts does not want to play right field. He wants to play second base. He's made that clear. I don't know if he will with Gavin Lux coming back. Miguel Rojas is still their shortstop. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a permanent change to second base over the next few years. That's not going to deter the Dodgers from signing an outfielder. I don't think they're going to put him in the outfield, though. I don't think that'd be smart. JD Martinez, it was a one-year contract intentionally, in my opinion, in the run up to Ohtani. And I think the Dodgers are looking in the long run. They know that they have Emmett Sheehan. They know they have Bobby Miller. They know they have all of these great young pitchers that they can afford for 4 or 5 years, where I think they would take the risk on Ohtani. Betts and Freeman have aged well so far. I think by far the best fits the Dodgers. And I would not be surprised if Friedman, their GM, has a president of baseball. I don't know what he is, but he's the guy in charge of those decisions. I bet he has a blank check for Ohtani. And I think the only team that can compete with that blank check is going to be the Mets. And they've basically said they're going to rebuild. They might have been just lying to Max Scherzer when they said that to have him waive his no trade clause. But I would not be surprised if no team comes close to the Dodgers' offer for Ohtani, especially with the injury. But I have a lot of knowledge on the Dodgers, unfortunately. I hate the Dodgers, but I watch them every day because of Mookie Betts. So I know a lot about their team. But
yeah, they have very little money committed. So
just Betts and Freeman. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. So they would have no problem giving Ohtani a huge contract, then signing Blake Snell at the same time. Like they can afford that.
Well, no, they also showed a lot of interest in Eduardo Rodriguez. They tried to get him at the deadline, and they couldn't. They wanted to. The reason it fell through, the rumor, is because they wanted to extend him. Eduardo Rodriguez wanted to be extended if he got traded because he had a no trade clause, and they couldn't get an extension done in time, so he vetoed the trade. And so I think the rumor is the Dodgers are still high on him, so I bet that is over Snell. That fits better for the Dodgers' price point, in my opinion, too. So that's my guess, but we will see. Ty, what's your storyline you're looking forward to?
I'm most anticipating Ohtani for sure, and I'd love to see both he and Trout leave that abysmal organization and go somewhere else. I think of the three teams, I would agree that the three likely destinations are the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Mets. Of those, I would not want to see him on the Mets.
Is that because you're a fan of the Braves or because you don't like the Mets?
Both. I really don't like the Mets. And for some reason, I don't like the Mets. That would impact like my desire to collect any of his cards a lot in a Mets jersey. And I'm not a Dodgers fan either, but I'm not as much of a Dodgers hater. I just think that makes a lot of sense. If I could wave some kind of a magic wand and have something else happen, which won't, it would be for him to go to the Mariners. I just think that'd be a really cool succession story to Ichiro, and they've got J-Rod, and they've done some things to kind of come alive. That'd be a really neat story in the Pacific Northwest, but that's not going to happen. So I'm also curious to see, like you said, not just free agents, but any trades, any moves. You mentioned Soto. The Yankees seems like a foregone conclusion at this point in many ways. But Pete Alonso is another guy. He's a free agent 2 years from now, and he's obviously been linked to the Cubs. That would be an even more Wrigley's a more hitter friendly park. And so, we mentioned him in the last episode that he's led MLB. I think he's had 172. I closed it, 172 home runs since 2019, which is like 20 more than Matt Olson, who's next closest. So it'd be really fun to see that, how that shakes out as well.
So I saw something, and I want to feel the temperature of the room here on Juan Soto. Ronald Acuna Jr. has been on Twitter saying he wants Juan Soto to come to the Braves. I don't see how that's not the best fit in the whole world, because they have no real big contracts aside of Olsen. Why wouldn't they get Juan Soto? Are they just scared to commit that much money to him at that young player? He's gonna be 26.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's probably two things standing in the way of that. One, their minor league system
Is it pretty bad?
Yeah, most of their best minor leaguers are in Oakland now. But yeah, there's going to be a money thing. They're not. If they were owned by a person, I would say absolutely that makes sense. But they're owned by a corporation. It was always going to be bottom line first.
Sure.
I know that they have been pretty good at expanding payroll, but they're not going to expand payroll like that. There's just no way. And there are little raises the Braves are going to have to pay. They really should be giving bonuses to like Albies and Acuna for signing those ridiculous deals. But yeah, and I don't think they need Juan Soto. Like, they need a left fielder now, but they don't need to spend like $40 million a year on Juan Soto. Their offense is still really, really good. They need a number 3 starter right now more than they need Juan Soto.
Yeah, they need a Blake Snell more than a Soto.
Yes, agreed.
All right.
It would be really cool to see Acuna and Soto play together, for the next 7 years.
Is Zach Wheeler a free agent? No,
but the other one is
Aaron Nola.
Yeah,
he's an interesting agency case.
That's right, Aaron Nola.
He's had highs and lows the last few years. So,
but yeah, I think the other huge story is Trout getting traded. I think we all want him to. We all
so badly.
We want him out of there. Like, there's no hope in that organization right now. Like, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing there. He's resigned to being in last place for the next at least 3 years. And if they're willing to eat some money to move him, he should absolutely take that opportunity and get out of Dodge. But we'll see.
The Angels publicly saying that they are willing to trade Trout if he asks to be traded is very interesting. People viewed that as them trying to force Trout out, but I think it's more so them coming out to the fans first. Yes. So, because Trout doesn't want to look like the bad guy, they don't want to make Trout look bad, and I think they know that. But Trout, he already commented, said he fully expects to be an Angel. Like, obviously, he has to say that. But I would be more surprised if he did get traded. I fully expect him to be an Angel, unfortunately.
Yeah, as a Braves fan, I've said it before. I don't want to see him go to the Phillies, but it just seems to make
fits so well.
Yeah.
Phil, what are your thoughts on Trout?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd hope he leaves, but I mean, at the end of the day, yes, I guess their games won't be played on ESPN every Sunday night because they won't have Ohtani anymore. So they go from a middle of the pack market to Trout would move from a middle of the pack market to maybe a better situation. But I don't think the Angels necessarily, you're still technically in LA or a part of LA. So I don't think it is the worst situation. I think that's sort of overrated a little bit in the hobby. We're like, oh, who cares about the Angels? But it's like, well, they do kind of have fans. Maybe they all leave once Ohtani and Trout are gone. But I guess where Trout goes, fans go. So sure, I'd like to see him go. What do you guys think if like Ohtani was to jump teams? Like, how much of an impact do you think that would have in Cards, knowing that he's kind of, I wouldn't say damaged goods right now, but certainly mangled a bit.
We've seen this play out before, not winning 2 MVPs unanimously, but we've seen Ohtani go from having the Rookie of the Year and then being injured. His cards dropped, and it's not going to be that same drop in his sophomore season that we saw. But I think Ohtani's cards are capped until he comes back as a pitcher. I don't think they're going to go horribly low or anything, but I think him moving teams will keep him relevant. But if he doesn't perform, he needs to hit well. Like, it's really up to Ohtani what happens with his cards. I know that sounds silly, but in baseball cards and sports cards, it's all narrative driven, but it's literally just how he plays at this point. It's very rare where I say it's based off of performance only. And I think in this case, it's truly based off of performance.
I do agree with Ty. I think it'd be awesome if he went to Seattle. That'd be great.
I disagree with Ty that I don't think the Mets would be horrible for his market, though. I think that'd be fun, personally.
I just don't want him on the Mets.
That doesn't make any sense. He's already been like on one kind of dumpster fire of a team. I don't see why he'd want to go into another one. Like,
not saying I'm just saying, like, I know the Mets are gonna Mets, but Steve Cohen, I think it's a new tenure, and that's irrationality here. But I know they haven't shown it yet. But I think they're gonna be fine in the future. We'll see. They have some pretty interesting contracts on their books already. So
yeah, I just feel like he wants to win. I mean, this is just from what I've read. Like, I think Ohtani really, really wants to win. So I would say that takes the Mets and Giants like out of the equation.
Okay.
So I would say Dodgers 1. I think the Mariners and Rangers could both make, pretty good appeals to him. I don't really. I know there's a lot of talk about like because he's from Japan, he wants to stay on the West Coast. Maybe that's true. I don't know. It just seems like I hate it. I hate the fact that the Dodgers just fit so perfectly. But I mean, he'd be fun to watch him hit in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work with Stanton there. They'd have to release Stanton. And I don't think Brian Cashman's ego would allow him to release Stanton.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of Fenway talk too. That's the other the kind of wild card every analyst says is Fenway, which I think is interesting. Ohtani said a lot of great things about Boston. And I think he would play well in the ballpark. So I think there might be something there too. And we have a Red Sox fan. Phil, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, this is again another situation where it's like, with the injury with the second, I don't think they announced it being a Tommy John, but certainly an elbow procedure that he just underwent
injury
7 to 10 days ago. So I don't know if that's a whole thing with his free agency status and whether providing information like that and filtering it a bit, but. Yeah, I think now all of a sudden the Red Sox can afford him, even though the Red Sox are a team that should be able to afford anyone. I mean, they used to have year over year the second biggest payroll in the year in the MLB, and now they're down to probably like top 8, only down to top 8. But they're quite a ways away from the teams that are seriously committing capital to compete year in, year out like the Dodgers. So I don't know. I just can't see it. We don't take risks like that usually. And I think Ohtani is probably just using us as leverage to get more money from the Dodgers at the end of the day, personally.
And I think he'll get that money. I think the Dodgers just make too much sense. I like the Mariners idea too. And I think they'd be willing to spend. So let's go back to sports cards on Ohtani for a minute. I want to hear your thoughts because there was a specific person on Instagram who was selling Ohtani cards and he had good prices on them, but they're still expensive. It was a raw Bowman Chrome pitching autograph. He has 2 Bowman Chrome autographs. There's his pitching, which I think might be the first. I don't know what's more desirable, probably the hitting, but it was $4,000 for raw. Like, what do we do with his cards now? Do we wait? Do you buy? What do you view this period of Ohtani as? And again, for anyone listening and watching, we're not saying you should do these things, but how do you view him? Obviously, I don't want to say hold. I don't want to say hold because that's what we're all going to say is a hold. Do you view him as a buy or a sell if you had to do one of the two? I'll start with Ty.
Start with me.
I'll start with Chris.
You saw my reaction. I had a minute to collect my thoughts here. I would say he is I'm going to say he's more of a buy than a sell. He might get a little spike when he wins his next MVP, which I think is about a week away. I think maybe Wednesday or Thursday they'll announce that. So there might be a little sell window right there where you could, probably make some money. It also depends when you bought in. If you bought in like during the summer, then I think you almost have to hold unless you're able emotionally and financially to take a little bit of a hit because I'm sure his prices have come down a little bit. I did see the last Topps Chrome Gold Refractor PSA 10 I saw sell went for like $7,300, which I think is pretty much about where it was. It may have spiked a little bit, but someone in this group, we won't have to name names, sold one for right about that exact price in, what was it, like June or July?
It was in June.
Okay. So that card has definitely sort of hung around where it was.
Okay.
Sorry. I was going to say read the Bowman Chrome autos. The pitching one was first.
Yes. Thank you. I don't think it's as desired. Isn't the hitting more desired because he's hitting?
I'm not sure what the prices are, to be honest with you.
This year, it looks like the hitting pose is overtaking it again. Sometimes they kind of flip flop.
Yes.
So it could be the one. I think the hitting pose was a expired redemption, which is keeping the pop count lower, not just the base, but all of them. Where with the pitching pose, it wasn't a redemption, but the base was short printed. So you're only getting a PSA 10 from the base card. Each one, pitching pose and hitting pose, they're like 50 of each, which is actually really low compared to like, like a player like Soto or normal player that just has one image.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ty, we asked you and then moved to Chris. Is he a buy or a sell to you?
Yeah, I think a buy, because I think there might be a little buzz if he ends up on a new team too. So that I'd say a buy.
Okay, Phil.
I'd say high risk buy, but I mean, this is a guy that I was calling when injury took place that this would be like a 30 to 35% dip from highs. I don't know if we're there yet. Maybe we're somewhere around that. So like June when Ty had his sale, although it's just one card, he did spike up about 30% throughout the course of June into July, right? So he probably peaked in and around like 4th of July, around that time frame. So if he's down 35% from peak, he's a high risk buy. And he's one that you actually do have a window potentially to sell. So I know, Scott, you're talking about performance. What I was mainly talking about was like a week or two after the free agent signing news. Like, so Mets, Giants, Dodgers, say 33% he ends up in either one of those three teams. And we know that the Dodgers are closer to 50%, right? Two of those are better environments from a market perspective, the Mets and the Dodgers. The other one is the Giants, which, yes, don't quite have the fans of like a Mets or a Yankees or a Dodgers, but it's a good baseball town. There's a good place to play, and they've shown the ability to be competitive. Good ballpark, passionate fans again. So it wouldn't be like a huge like downgrade. If anything, it might be sort of neutral situation. So I think you're in a pretty good place to have some positive EV. But then again, transaction volume of his stuff. Like, what if like everybody's selling that week and has the same idea, right? And then you're dealing with transaction fees on top of oversaturated market for that week or 2 weeks. If people do see that, oh, this is a chance I can get out. What if he doesn't return to being a starting pitcher? So I don't know what'll happen there, but generally there could be some spike associated with a new team and Google Analytics. You're up there in the search, news, relevance.
I have had a hard time buying Ohtani since he debuted, and I am still not going to buy because I am just sitting on the fence. Absolutely am. And I'm probably always going to be, because when I think he is going awesome, he's just too expensive. But right now there's a lot of risk involved in his cards. But I don't think he's going to be screwed or anything for the long run. It's just tough. He's a very tough candidate. Money is not as flowing as it was, and his cards are still expensive. But I do think there's a chance over the next 12 months we see some decent movement up, just because of signing a new team, the excitement of the MVP, all of that as well. But for next year, he's just got to play. If he can hit next year, I think his cards are going to be just fine. Pitching will come back 2 years later, and he's going to be amazing. It's just given that he's going to be amazing as a pitcher, and then he'll be up and up and up again. So we'll see what happens. All right. So next thing I want to discuss with you all is going to be about your dumbest sports card decisions. Sometimes it's hard to bring these up and open those wounds, but let's talk about our worst sports cards mistakes and why. It can be a financial loss. It can be a sentimental loss, either or. But I want to start with Chris on this one and hear what your worst baseball card mistake was.
Okay. I actually just looked this one up to get the official amount that it's down, and a lot of blood left my body really quickly. All right. So FOMO is a very real thing. The fear of missing out. I think even the most like seasoned collector and investor, maybe not Phil, but everyone else feels this and can be affected by it and has fallen victim to it for sure. So I drafted Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in 2 dynasty fantasy leagues in like 2017. So I felt really smart. I felt like I was attached to this guy. I wasn't into cards at the time, so that was where I had him. So I already developed sort of an obsession with him. After 2020, when he was bad and overweight and had that terrible short season, I bought some of his cards at a fairly discounted price. Jeff and I got into some bigger ones. We figured 2021 he was going to turn it around, because he even said like he was embarrassed. So we were ready for 2021. And then the season started. And he did exactly that. Like, he was just killing baseballs and proving us right. And the hobby was all about Guerrero stuff. And somehow we still, despite even having Guerrero cards already, we still fell victim to this feeling of FOMO, like we didn't have enough. So we went hunting for another Guerrero card, and I still remember this, make me gag to think about it, but we were watching his Sapphire rookie, and eBay sales had topped like $1,000. But there was one on My Slabs for like, I don't know, $960, I think. And I'm like, oh, Jeff, like this one, this one's still relatively cheap. We got to jump on it. And so we did. And we watched it. I think sales got up to like $1,500-$1,600 as the summer went on. And, you know, as somebody who had him in fan, I was very emotionally attached. I'm like, I'm not ready to move this. Like, let's see what happens, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, still have the card today. And the last sale, anyone want to guess?
PSA 10 Sapphire?
PSA 10 Sapphire rookie.
$100.
$220. And I see no reason why that card is going to rebound. At this point, it would take Guerrero 3 great seasons in a row for that card to double from where it is. Like one good one isn't going to move the needle. So we have this card as just sort of a reminder that you have to make your move early, and once it starts, it's too late. And like when we feel that FOMO, as I'm sure I like to think you guys have all felt it, God, it's really hard, but you have to just ignore it.
My current biggest loss is not FOMO, but kind of FOMO, maybe over analyzing, which I probably tend to do at times. But this year I picked up a Juan Soto red ink rookie autograph. It was a BGS 9 with a 10 autograph, and it's serial numbered 22 out of 69, and 22 is his jersey number, and it's labeled as jersey number by Beckett. I think I'm in this card like $4,600. Like I'm in it really high, and a BGS 9.5 just sold for $2,900. So I've lost some good money on that. But at the same time, like I do value it slightly higher irrationally because of the jersey number, which is great. And I still like to think there's a chance for Soto to rebound easier than Vlad just because of who Soto is. But as of right now, where it stands, that's probably my worst purchase. There's a lot of downside on that card, but I think it could bounce back. I have irrational hope too.
Yeah. I had more confidence in your card than in mine.
But that one's probably down about $2,000 in less than a year. So, and he had a good year. He did not finish top 5, maybe 10, top 10, maybe top 5 MVP voting this year. So.
Career high in home runs
and RBI, I believe, wasn't it? Or was it not career high?
I think RBI as well. Yeah.
I think he was like 4th in the NL and OPS plus. So, okay, Phil, what's yours?
Well, I think I've lost more money than that on a Soto card, but I don't consider it anywhere near what I'm about to say. And I've got a couple stories here, so bear with me. These will be fast. But I've made a lot of money on a lot of Soto cards too, to make up for that loss. Okay, so this is you said baseball card. Here's a basketball card story. Nice. I bought 216 blasters, and I made a video about this, and it's on my filming page. 216 blasters of the Zion Year Chronicles basketball. Thinking that this was an investment play, and I've realized already $10,000 in losses. I think I've sold all but like the last couple. So I picked those up for about $13,000, sold them for about $3,000 after fees. So if you take a $10,000 loss and make sure you also make money that year from the hobby, so you can offset it and make more money than you've lost to with those series of transactions in order to take full advantage of the tax benefit there of the offsetting. But the issue there was me buying too close to release on a product that I underestimated Panini's ability to increase print runs from one year to the next. So I was looking at performance potential, appreciation history of like the last year's product with Luka. And I'm like, oh, Luka and Zion, they're basically the same guy. Sure, like Zion got injured, but even if he was the same guy as Luka, and Luka's had his own set of issues, still they printed like 4 times as much, which I had never seen from a baseball perspective. And the whole product breakdown just changed, like hit wise, like no numbered cards being in them. And this was also at the peak of the ultra modern boom for basketball. When I did all this buying was around October of 2020. And I think the ultra modern basketball market maybe peaked out in like December. So all around, just terrible move by me. And I didn't really know the basketball market. So a lot of stupid decisions. The other bad decision I made was the lack of a selling decision. So a little bit different. PSA 9 Charizard first edition. I've talked about it on this podcast and about how I own one. Well, I bought that for about $6,000 in October of 2019, I think. And 2 years later, in 2021, I think it was 2021, the whole like Logan Paul like pump of Pokemon started. And me not knowing enough about the market Pokemon wise, like, and me thinking that this was like a 10 or 20-year hold, I wasn't the whole decision point to sell wasn't really crossing my mind as much as it should. And I didn't really understand enough about the factors that caused this card to go up 4x in the course of like 6 months. So I got an offer on Instagram, $50,000 cash. Paid $6,000 for the card again. And I just got my first flu shot because my baby was born, and I usually don't get them. So I'm a little like, off, like 24 hours. Like I don't feel great. Maybe I need a flu shot now, by the way. And I ended up like not responding to the guy over the weekend, or I told him like, I'm going to hold off for now. And I remember him telling me like, oh, well, everybody wants your card. It's so rare. In my head, I'm thinking like it's a pop like 700. It's not rare. What are you talking about? But like 2-3 days later, after I recover, I responded to the guy. I'm like, hey, are you still interested? At that point, comps had already like dropped. Like we're talking like from 50K or 60K down to like 35K. And they've never recovered since then. So now, it's like a 20K card. I'm okay with it because it's like a long-term hold anyways. But obviously I'd rather have the money, as a responsible adult. I should have taken that money and just bought one back later.
And Ty, what happened to you?
My biggest loss, I did made a video on this too. My biggest loss was on a Lamar Jackson optic hollow that I bought pretty much near the high point and waited and thought maybe he'd actually have another MVP type comeback, and he just didn't. And I finally cut my losses at, I bought it for a little over 2K, sold it for 700. That card's now down most recently to $482, but it's been down in the 300s. So I'm glad I sold it. But the big overall snafu on a single player has been Wander. And I just couldn't have seen it coming. Honestly, I bought his, you guys know this, but I bought his Topps Heritage Gold Refractor rookie in a PSA 8. And I saw it on eBay and I was like, wow, this seems like it should be more. I was looking at other guys like Acuna and Soto and Tatis, and I was like, So I put in a very last minute max bid of like 1,900 on it, and I won it for 1,780. And I was, fishing for offers through the eBay vault. I had sent it to the vault and was just trying to like make a couple $100 quick on it. And I had a guy who was dickering with me on it, and I was going to make like $100. And then that was when all the news dropped. And I just was like, oh no. And I sat for a few days just kind of going, what should I do? And then I just decided to list it and roll the dice on auction. And I got 600 for it. But I'm still sitting on another Wander card, which is his Topps Chrome Update Sapphire Edition Rookie Debut Gold to 50. It's a PSA 10. It's Pop 5. I paid $400 for it. And a BGS 9 of that just sold a month ago. How much do you guys think a BGS 9 of his Rookie Debut Sapphire Gold to 50 sold for a month ago?
$87.
Okay, Scott.
$70.
I said, sorry, I was muted. $26.
$14.26.
$14.
I mean, that's a buy. That's a buy to me, because we still haven't really heard what's going on. And I did hear some rumblings that he's just going to like get away with all of this. But I mean, maybe he just never comes back to the MLB. Probably not. But yeah, just crazy. Right. So, I mean, I was kind of sitting on that card almost as like a token of education, I guess, at this point.
I have more lost stories. I don't know if we want to keep going on this topic or not, but
we should just come back to it periodically. Like, once every month we can break each other's hearts with.
Let's just come in and humble ourselves.
Right.
That way, if our audience thinks we get a little bit too competent, they can remember these guys are idiots. So maybe that's what we got to do. But and to wrap up today's video, I think we have a few account shout outs. And I think, Chris, you mentioned that you have someone.
I do. There's a lot of different ways that people collect cards. I know some of you are rookie card collectors, some of you are player collectors, but there are still in this hobby some set collectors, guys that love to put together master sets, and they can get really deep into this, and it's a really interesting to look at. So the account I wanted to talk about is it's on Instagram. It's Ginter Wood Mini, and he has recently posted the 2011 Topps Heritage Black Refractor Complete Set. And it is just, if you have a few minutes to go onto his page, I think there's 9 cards per post, and just kind of scroll through it. And the images on the set, it's from the 62 Topps design. So the cards just absolutely look phenomenal. The big card in there is the Freeman rookie. So obviously I was a little partial to this set as well. I think he also posted the 2010 Black Refractor set. But these cards are awesome. There's a ton of Hall of Famers in the set, and it's just really amazing. They're all numbered to 64 or something. To see them all in one place is really, really cool. And I think I talked to him about it. It took him a couple of years to get this project done, obviously. But it's a phenomenal looking set.
And I will say it's amazing. As a set collector myself, I've finished a few sets. It can be pricey at times. And so some of these cards, they take time and resources and dedication and a lot of effort to get them. Like this Kershaw right here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. I'll circle it bigger. That's a big card. So that's really great. I didn't realize the Freeman as well. The Posey right here is the Posey with the cup. That's so cool.
Yeah, the Freeman rookie is dead center. Oh,
did I miss it? Oh, yeah, it's right there. Right here's the Freeman.
Right there. Yep.
There it is. Baseball card addict right there, Chris. There you are.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Okay, Ty, did you have someone you want to shout out?
I dropped it in the chat if you want to pop it open. Hopefully that works.
Let me grab it really quick. I'm going to pull it on over here. All right, here it is.
So we've got cardboard hunks, aka Comstock's balls, apparently. And this count just, I mean, you guys know I'm kind of just enamored with Topps Dynasty. The more I look into it, and I find myself just looking at the cards, kind of going, that'd be cool to have. And this account is even better than going out to eBay or to Market Mover's sales history to look at any of those transactions. So many chunky patches. There's a Maddox on there that's super cool. Just scrolling through this, it's like a little museum showcase of Topps Dynasty. So definitely shout out to Cardboard Hunks. It's just a unbelievable account. Plus he's got the Topps Chrome Technicolor Superfractor, Gunnar Henderson, lots of other cool stuff too.
Look at this Mark McGwire. Look at that little Cardinal.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So cool.
So cool.
This Soto is a big card. I saw the Ohtani RPA up here as well. That's really great. There's the Technicolor you're talking about. There was an Ohtani RPA as well. But yeah, there's some, when we say chunky patches, these are chunky patches.
These are super chunky.
Patch.
Yep.
Those are great. Other than that, that's going to wrap us up for this week. Thank you for watching. If you're not a subscriber on YouTube, please subscribe. We appreciate it. It helps the channel grow, helps other people find the content. Comment on the video. Let us know your thoughts. And if you want to reach out to us, we have a Spitballin Cards Instagram account. Ty does an excellent job of running that if you want to chat with him or any of us directly. And other than that, we will see you on the next video.